Japan's history and culture are rich and vast. It has an equally fascinating belief system in all things mythical, terrifying, and paranormal. Japanese culture has thousands of named ghosts and spirits. Not all spirits are wickedly inclined, but a few will make your blood run cold. Yurei, also known as ghosts of those who has passed on, and yokai, demons or spirits, have been part of Japanese urban myths from as far back as the 8th century. The Kojiki, which is the records of ancient matters, is probably the first documentation we have available on Japanese mythology. These ancient texts say that there are 8 million spirits of gods in existence. The stories of these spirits are sometimes vicious and vengeful, with tales of parents killing children and siblings and each other. Because they resemble humans, the yokai were frequently portrayed as weird incarnations of common people or animals, some terrifyingly distorted, like a long neck or 3 eyes. Others resembled plants, insects, or household objects. In this video, we'll talk about 5 of the most terrifying creatures from Japan. Joro Gumo. The Joro Gumo is a stunningly beautiful woman whose true form is a big spider. The name can be translated to binding bride or horror spider. Sometimes she takes the form of a human upper body and a spider bottom body. The Joro Gumo is based on the golden orb reaper spider, specifically the Nephilia clavata, which also goes by the name Joro spider. In Japan, certain species of spiders are believed to have supernatural powers. The golden orb is one of them. The legend says that when the golden orb spider turns 400 years old, it transforms into the Joro Gumo. The beautiful Joro Gumo seduces men with music, traps them in her webs, and binds their feet with her silken web. When she is ready to feast, she injects them with poison that weakens them while she drains the fluids from their bodies. Her victims die a slow and agonizing death as they are being devoured. She likes to take her time with her meals. Apparently, human flesh is a delicacy, so it can't be rushed. According to one interpretation of the Joro Gumo legend, she occasionally manifests as a woman bearing a baby, who begs passing men to hold the baby. When they do, they're shocked to learn the infant is formed of actually tens of thousands of cracked spider eggs. Young, good-looking men looking for love are Joro Gumo's favorite type of victim. It is her appetite for handsome men that gave her the title War Spider. When a Joro Gumo sees a man she desires, she invites him inside her house, and he is never seen or heard from again. She will be going about freely in the community as the skeletons of young men pile up in her home. Teke Teke. Teke Teke is something straight out of a horror film. This urban legend is about a schoolgirl who fell onto some train tracks and her body was severed by an oncoming train. Her spirit comes back as only half of her without legs. She crawls around on her hands, carrying a scythe, her horror weapon of choice. Her fate is to go around cutting her victims in half, just as the train did to her. Legends claim that American soldiers attacked and sexually assaulted a female office worker in Momoren, Hokkaido after World War II. She jumped off a bridge that evening, landed on the railroad lines, and was run over by a train. Her body was split in two at the waist due to the impact's extreme force. Her blood vessels constricted due to the extreme cold, which stopped her from bleeding out rapidly. Instead, she spent some time withering and squirming in search of assistance. No one came to her aid, and she eventually died alone. This justifies the claim that Teke Teke is a vengeful spirit. She is out for blood, terrorizing mankind for refusing to come to her aid in her hour of need. Another version of the legend states that the Teke Teke lurks around public bathrooms, asking unsuspecting victims if they know where her legs are. If they don't answer with the Mission Railway, she cuts off their legs. To be an unfortunate victim of Teke Teke means you become just like her, prowling urban areas with only half of your body and cutting people's legs off to seek your own revenge on the world. Kekkai. It gets worse, much worse. Let me introduce Kekkai, the birth demon. The Kekkai is probably the most tragic of all the Japanese yokais. Kekkai means blood clot. You will soon come to know why. It is said that some unfortunate mothers would give birth to a Kekkai instead of a human baby. As soon as a Kekkai comes out from the womb, covered in blood and birthing fluids, it runs away and hides under the house. Old Japanese structures usually had a tiny compartment under the floorboards, which is the Kekkai's favorite hiding place. It finds a place to burrow where it cannot be captured, and emerges at night to attack the sleeping mother and tear her apart. It's gruesome to even imagine it. The mother that carried the Kekkai for 9 months is now its bloody target. Certain precautions can be taken to capture the Kekkai before it has a chance to hide. Traps can be set to eliminate the threat before it kills the mother. It was said that if a mother did not take care of herself and her baby during pregnancy, she had a greater chance of giving birth to a Kekkai. It was essentially a ghost story for young mothers to be extra careful. In all practical sense, the origins of this evil legend stems from the dangers associated with childbirth. To make sense of birth defects and abnormalities, legends were born. It was not uncommon for mothers to die during childbirth or after. To direct their grief, families blamed evil spirits for this tragedy. People needed a way to explain why horrible things were happening. Blaming tragedy on an evil spirit was easier to stomach than fate. Kuchisake-Onna. One of the more modern Japanese ghosts is the Kuchisake-Onna, also known as the slit-mouthed woman. She is one of the more malicious spirits in Japanese folklore. She goes about wearing a mask to cover the bloody gas across her face. Legend says she was mutilated while still alive. One version of her story says she was an unfaithful wife or concubine whose husband took matters into his own hands. He cut her from ear to ear across the mouth, making it appear as if she wore a tortured smile. She haunts Japan to get revenge on the world that has wronged her. Another version of her story says she was mutilated by a woman who was jealous of her beauty. Kuchisake-Onna carries a sharp knife and sometimes large scissors to carry out her vicious acts. Her method of terror was to go around asking people if she was pretty. They would always answer yes, and she would then proceed to remove her mask and ask them again. If they said no, she would cut them from ear to ear, giving them a matching scar to her own. If her victims answered yes for a second time, she would appear to leave, only to follow them home and murder them as they slept. There's no way to win with this ghost. If you saw her, you were done for. Kuchisake-Onna is a fan favorite in pop culture. She started appearing in manga, anime, and video games in 1994. The Japanese are savvy with their technology, and the yokais are there for the fun and games. The Ittan-Momen. The Ittan-Momen is weird and frightening, but mostly weird. Imagine walking down the street and you see a piece of white cloth billowing in the wind. You think it's going to blow right past you, but instead, it wraps around your neck and starts choking you. You try to pull it off, but it wraps tighter and proceeds to strangle you to death. That is the Ittan-Momen. The concept is so ridiculous that it's actually funny when it's not you being strangled, that is. There's a story that says the Ittan-Momen's true form is a spirit. A man was walking home at night when the cloth attacked him and wrapped around his face, trying to suffocate him. He managed to cut it with the sword. Upon doing so, the cloth disappeared completely, leaving only traces of blood on the man's hand. Their intent for killing is not clear. They simply appear to be wicked troublemakers with a thirst for killing innocent pedestrians. The origins of this legend are varied. In the land where this yokai emerged from, they have a custom of raising white cotton flags during burials to signify a moment of mourning. Therefore, it can be assumed that some of these flags would be carried by the wind and soar through the air, connecting them to the stories of the Ittan-Momen yokai. One theory says that because parents used to work late in the fields and could not always keep an eye on the children, stores were made up to keep children in check. One such story was that of the Ittan-Momen. The concept of the piece of cloth killing people at night was simply enough for any child to understand. It was clear, once the sun set, all well-behaved children were to stop playing and start heading indoors. So if you happen to be walking down the Kagoshima Asumi district of Japan and you see a piece of cotton blown towards you, run. Run like you've never run before. The yokai have somewhat become celebrities in today's world. People don't generally believe them to be real, but they respect the place they hold in Japanese culture and history. As you might have noticed, the creepiest yokai has a hidden lesson in their biography. Lessons for those living to take care of one another and do good unto each other. If you choose evil, evil will find you and haunt you. The yokai can be found in all forms of entertainment, both digital and print. As you can see, the Japanese monsters are vibrant and full of terrifying personalities. Not all of them are vengeful, but the few that are go about their sadistic acts with flair and style. Just pray that you never have to run into one. Thanks for watching our late night top 5 channel. We're a new channel and would love to have your support by subscribing, liking, or simply dropping a comment down below. To watch more interesting late night videos, click the links to continue watching more.